I want to begin by saying that the Arabic word Quran is more accurately translated into English as read it out to those who listen. In essence, this book has no title. Therefore, for simplicity, I will refer to it as this book. Let's get straight into it. This video will show that, according to this book, Arab is not an ethnic identity, not a race, and not a people. Before we go any further, I want to be clear about one thing. I'm not claiming to be a scholar, and I'm not saying this is a traditional interpretation, but what I am saying is that we do not need to be scholars to understand this book. This video is about what this book itself actually says, and just as importantly, what it doesn't say. Let's begin with the letter Ain. When I speak about the letter Ain, I am not saying this letter magically changes words. What I am saying is this. When you look at how this book uses words that start with Ain, a pattern shows up. And across this book, roots that begin with Ain overwhelmingly describe something internal, something developed, something intentional, something structured. They're about states, not identities. Let's look at some examples most people already accept. Ilm is not just knowing. This book has many ways to indicate knowing. Arafa, to recognize. Dara, to be aware. Hasiba, to assume. But ilm is different, and subtly so. It means structured knowledge, knowledge that carries responsibility, knowledge that has been internalized. Here, this book treats ilm as something that binds the knower to responsibility. Aql is not just thinking. Aql is not IQ or intelligence. It's disciplined thinking. Reasoning that actually leads somewhere. That's why this book repeatedly asks, do you not reason? Amal is not just action. This book has words for haraka, movement, jad, effort, fa'ala, doing. But amal refers to something deeper. It is intentional, accountable action, action with consequences. Adl is not physical balance. Adl does not mean symmetry or physical balance. It means moral alignment, principled justice, structured fairness. None of these words describe who someone is. Rather, they describe where someone is internally. That matters for what's next. So now, let's look at what the word Reb means. Some people hear Lord and think of ownership, but that's not really what Reb means. Reb means nurturer, sustainer, developer. The one who raises something step by step. A Reb doesn't just own. A Reb builds, forms, and brings something to maturity. That's important. Remember that idea of development. So what does Arabi actually mean? There is no better way to do this than to let this book speak for itself. This book uses Arabi, Arabian, repeatedly, but always in relation to clarity, intelligibility, articulation, understanding. Let's look at some examples and at how this book already defines the word itself. 12:2, as is commonly translated, indeed, we sent it down as a Quran Arabian so that you may understand. 12:2 literally tells you why the word Arabian is being used. It doesn't say for Arabs, for a race, for a people. It says so that you may understand. That's the reason. So already the focus is clarity, not identity. Arabian is linked directly to understanding, ta'qilun. It's a function of the word understanding. If the word meant a race, a people, an ethnicity, 12:2 would be incoherent. Instead, this book uses Arabi to describe a mode of expression, one that is intelligible and articulated. So a more accurate reading of 12:2 would be, we brought it into being to be read out to those who listen to it, Quran, expressed with clear, intelligible articulation, Arabian, so that you may understand. Let's look at another example, 26:19:5. In a clear Arabi tongue. In 26:19:5, Arabi is directly describing tongue, lisan, and then the verse adds mubin, clear, obvious, unmistakable. So the emphasis is doubled, clear speech and clear expression. So the structure is essentially a tongue that is Arabi and clear, mubin. This double emphasis reinforces the function of the word. This immediately tells us something important. The word Arabi is functioning as a descriptor of speech, not of people. Arabi is being used to describe how the message comes across, not who it belongs to. If Arabi were an ethnic or racial marker, adding mubin, clear, would make no sense. You don't describe ancestry as clear in this way, but you do describe speech that way. So a more accurate reading of 26:195 would be, through a tongue that is clearly articulated and made plain, Arabi. So what about Arab that has the added letter Elif? Let's look at 997 and 999. 997, as commonly translated, is, the Arab are more intense in denial and hypocrisy. But then immediately after it, at 999, and as commonly translated it reads, and among the Arab are those who believe. So if we take these translations at face value, this book is condemning and then praising the same race almost back to back. Does that make sense? Some people try to avoid this contradiction by saying, oh, it's talking about a different kind of Arab, like Bedouins or people outside city life. That feels like grasping at straws. In this reading, the letter alif at the beginning of Arab points to something externalized or undeveloped, not a bloodline, but a state. And the root arbi elsewhere relates to clarity and articulation. So the contrast looks like this. Arab, Arabi, refined, articulated expression. Arab, distance from refinement and internal structure. That already tells us we're not dealing with race here. We're dealing with levels of development. Thus, a more accurate reading of 997 would be, those in an unrefined state of understanding, Arab, are more deeply stuck in denial and hypocrisy, and less aware of the limits of what is being revealed. Notice what's being criticized here. Not blood, not race, but understanding. Following from this, a more accurate reading of 999 would be, and among those same people, Arab, are some who truly believe in God and the day when those stand up for the truth, Yom al-Qiyamah, and who give sincerely to draw closer to God. So 997 and 999 aren't talking about race at all. They're describing where people are internally, how developed their understanding is, whether what they've heard has actually settled in their hearts yet. That's why this book can criticize and praise Arab without contradiction, because it's not describing bloodlines, it's describing states of development within the same broad social grouping. Let me be clear about one thing. I am not saying Rab turns into Arab, or that one word comes from the other, or that there's a hidden wordplay rule. What I am saying is this. This book describes guidance as a process. That process looks something like this. Something is nurtured, it develops, it becomes clear, and then it can be expressed properly. When this book describes itself as Arabi, it's not naming a people. It's describing the final stage of that process, that is, a message that has reached full clarity and can now be communicated clearly. So, Rab describes the process of nurturing and development. Arabi describes the outcome of that process in communication. They are conceptually connected, not linguistically connected. And that's the key point I want to be clear about. What about history and lineage? A common claim is that Arabs existed before Islam. But that's not the question. The question is, does this book build identity around that history? And the answer is no. If Arab were a divinely relevant ethnic group, it would be named, as others are. There is, for example, Qaum Bani Israel, Qaum Ad, Qaum Thamud. There is no Qaum al-Arab mentioned anywhere in this book, and that absence matters. Another claim is that Arabs descend from Ishmael. This book never calls Ishmael an Arab. That claim comes from later tradition, not this book's text itself. So now let's summarize what is being said. Arabi is about clear expression. Arab is about undeveloped understanding. Neither word defines a race. Neither word defines ancestry. and that historical narratives do not determine how this book defines identity. We have seen in this video that according to this book's own language, Arab is not an ethnic group. It is a descriptive term, not a racial identity. That distinction is not political, it is textual. Now that we've reached the end of this video, I want to say one last thing. With some regret, this will be my final video. I hope that, at the very least, these videos have helped you step back from preconditioned narratives and ideas you may have never questioned before. But more than anything, I hope they haven't caused confusion or fear. I hope they've brought clarity and courage. If these videos have helped you move away from ignorance and toward a sense of openness and abundance, knowing that you are free to think, choose, and live without unnecessary guilt, then they've done what they were meant to do. I also hope that each of you finds and stays loyal to like-minded people, whether that's your spouse, your children, your family, or your friends. According to my understanding of this book, those like-minded people are the ones with whom you can live a full, enjoyable, and most importantly, safe and secure life. And as always, I genuinely wish you the very best in whatever comes next.